Hiya, I'm Jasper, and welcome to your video review for Blue Beetle. It's a movie starring People and George Lopez. So, as always, I'm going to give you the good, the bad, and the furry. To start off the furry, it's literally called the Blue Beetle. So, there is a blue scarab. Moving on to the good and the bad. So, this movie, it was fine. Really, it was fine. I think to borrow a phrasing from Jeremy John's rating scale, I'm going to call this, won't remember it in T-1 day. So, yep, already forgot. So, this movie, it's fine. It's not great. It's not terrible. It is a superhero origin story of a kid who's just like out of his element, and then there's an evil guy, an evil corporation thing, and yeah. So, the general story, it doesn't break any new ground, and it has the classic, like, either my family or my friends make me stronger because I have friends and or I have family, and that's a good thing to have friends and or family, just depending on which superhero you're talking about. One of them will have one or the other or both, and that's a good thing. So that's fun, and I like that message. The CGI was pretty much fine. I didn't see any major problems with it other than the Cord Industries building. They're making like this big deal about like, whoa, look at how tall it is. And then he gets inside, it's like, look at how tall it is. And both the outside and especially the inside just look fake as hell. Like, so terrible. But other than that, the CGI was fine. I think that they had enough practical effects. Like, it's not Mad Max Fury Road in terms of practical effects, but it's not, Ant-Man Quantumania level of, just garbage. Everything's CGI in the background type of thing. So, it was good. What I will say is that it had a bit of problem with tone. So George Lopez is a comedian. He's hilarious. I remember the George Lopez show or whatever it was called, but he's a hilarious guy. Love him. I also love Jeff Bridges. And in R.I.P.D, Jeff Bridges was in a very different movie than Ryan Reynolds in R.I.P.D. They were in two very different movies, even though they were in R.I.P.D. So I feel like they have a bit of that, where George Lopez is in a hilarious slapstick comedy, and everyone else is in a serious movie. So I think it has the same problems as R.I.P.D., where you have people just giving it their all for the feels, and then somebody who's giving it all as a comedian because it's hilarious. And I think that the Blue Beetle circumstances do lead themselves more into the comedy realm, so I am glad they had him, but the tone just it doesn't quite meld for me. The other thing that was a little odd, minor gripe, but they made this big deal early on about like they're losing the house that they've been renting for however long because the rent has been tripled and they can't afford to live there anymore, so they're getting kicked out. Which I get. That is a valid plot point thing or like an experience for a family to have. But then the rest of the instances when they talk about do things related to or in anything about the house, it seems much more like that they care about the house and about the future of the house and what they're going to do about the house and yada yada, as a owner would, not as a renter would. Because as a renter, you can just leave. Like, that's the thing. You can just, good luck. So I feel like the additional, I feel like it must have been like a pickup shot or an addition to be like, oh, we're losing it because of the rent has been tripled. Okay, and yeah, it sucks that we're losing the house. Like, I feel like they added that bit after they had shot the rest of the movie where it seems like they had ownership of the house. Maybe I'm crazy, but that's just how it felt to me. The other thing is I feel like they didn't have to do the illegal alien thing, but it was with George Lopez, and he's hilarious, so I'll give that a pass, because he's hilarious. And, yeah, in general, the movie's fine. I feel like it doesn't break any new ground, and I think they hold on to the, like, holy shit, oh gosh, whoa thing a bit longer than they needed to, especially because one of the other things that I think was a little unclear is, so when they start off, I like the opening credits style, like, I like what they did with the font stylization and everything. I thought they did a really good job there. Like, DC, I like that DC and Warner Brothers are willing to mix up their title and their opening logos and whatnot to bring you into the movie. So I like that. But it was unclear to me if this is within the DC universe where Batman is a real person and Superman is a real person. Because they talk about Batman, but in a way where I am unclear if Batman and Gotham and Metropolis and all that jazz are real places and real people that fought real crime, or if they are just superheroes from the comics that people liked and so inspired them to do things. Like it's unclear, and I feel like they should have made it more clear, because in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem, they made it very clear as to, they were talking about Marvel superheroes as like the movie, because it's like, oh, Mark Ruffalo, blah 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 blah, when talking about the Hulk. Here it's like Batman. Okay, Michael Keaton or Christian Bale or Vampire Dude or like who like, or is it just Batman? It was unclear, and I feel like they should have clarified it. And if he was real, then I feel like that downgrades this movie a bit because of the technology shown and the world that they built. I think makes less sense if Batman was real. And that being said, about some of the things, they had a bit of wish fulfillment with some of the technology where I'm like, if you have that, why can't you do this? And if you have that, why wouldn't this happen? And if this was a thing, then why is that happening? So, had a bit of that, but that's the thing, is that this is a origin story comedy movie. So, there's a lot of things that I think you just kind of just like, sure, all right. And then you're just along for the ride and having a fun time. So, it's not a terribly memorable movie, and, I do think that how I would put it is that, you got the R.I.P.D thing, and then in terms of powers, it just, a lot of the time was really reminding me of Tony Stark's, like, late generation Iron Man costumes. Like, how they could, like, especially in Endgame and whatnot, like, how they could do what he needed them to do. Like, Infinity War and Endgame, how they were functioning how he needed to whenever he needed them to do it. And in Iron Man, you saw it build up to that, like the progression of his suits over the decade-ish. But in this one, it had that feel of already being able to do that. And also because it's DC Universe, I couldn't not also think about like, oh, this thing can basically do whatever you want. So, I mean, it's kind of like the Green Lantern as well. So it's like a hybrid between Green Lantern and Iron Man late generation suits. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing or just a derivative thing or just a symptom of so many superhero movies that we've seen a whole bunch of things now. And yeah, so I don't think it too much distracted or too much took away from my enjoyment of the film. But again, it's not one of those ones that's breaking a whole bunch of new ground. And then somebody else that I know that watched it also said that it very much reminded them of the Spy Kids movie and how that's what they were thinking of like throughout the movie. And I vaguely remember the Spy Kids movies, but I don't remember when I watched them, but it was a long time ago and probably only once, so they don't like stick out to me for like memorable things. So, but yeah, maybe if you really have a connection to Spy Kids, maybe you'll get Spy Kids vibe from it. But yeah, again, we'll remember it in T-minus 1 day, but that doesn't mean it's not a fun time. So give it a watch if you like George Lopez, if you want a decent superhero movie with decent CGI for the most part, and yeah, that's all I have for this one. So thumbs up, thanks for coming, thanks for watching, hope to see you in the next one, bye.